Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau officially announced his resignation. Vice President Kamala Harris certifies her own resounding election loss against President Trump. And last but not least, the U.S. just reported its first human death from bird flu in Louisiana. A lot is definitely happening, you guys, and we're going to make sure that our YouTube fam is up to date on the latest. All you got to do is sit right there, get comfortable, and watch this. So first, Justin Trudeau is announcing his resignation as Canada's Prime Minister, and he's blaming it all on his own party's infighting. Check this out.
Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. As you all know, I am a fighter, and I am not someone who backs away from a fight, particularly when a fight is as important as this one is. But I have always been driven by my love for Canada, by my desire to serve Canadians, and by what is in the best interests of Canadians. And Canadians deserve a real choice in the next election. And it has become obvious to me with the internal battles that I cannot be the one to carry the Liberal standard into the next election.
Now, I read the comments, and one of the top comments said that this means one less communist dictator, and how? Now Canada is praying that they can get rid of their own dictator, Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, I don't know about the label dictator, but one thing that I will never forget about Justin Trudeau in particular was that he said that he's concerned about working Canadians, but then he turns around and he freezes the truckers' bank accounts just because they opposed him. Go figure, right? But then again, you know, we got Kamala Harris certifying her own devastating election loss against President-elect Trump. Man, that must have been embarrassing for her. Here, watch this.
This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
Well, to borrow Kamala Harris's favorite phrase, I guess America is now unburdened by what might have been. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, more on that a little bit later. But first, let's talk about this resignation announcement from Justin Trudeau and what this could mean for Canada becoming the 51st state. That's right, guys. You heard that right. Because as soon as Justin Trudeau made the announcement, President-elect Trump, he went on Truth Social and reiterated his suggestion that Canada should become the 51st U.S. state, saying that many people in Canada love being the 51st state. He said that the United States can no longer suffer the massive trade deficits and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this, and so he resigned. So Trump's idea is if Canada merged with the United States, then there would be no tariffs, taxes would go way down, and they would also be totally secure from the threat of the Russian and Chinese ships that are constantly surrounding them. He even said together, what a great nation it would be. And this isn't the first time that he's brought this up. Now, I'll be honest with you, on the surface, without going into a whole lot of the details, sounds like a great idea to me. What do y'all think about Canada just being an expansion of the United States of America? Let me know in the comments down below. But apparently Trump brought up the merger idea to Justin Trudeau in person when the pair met at Mar-a-Lago in Florida in late November. Justin Trudeau jetted to Trump's Florida residence unannounced that month after the president-elect threatened to impose sweeping tariffs on Canadian products. Guys, we're talking 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico Trudeau over failures by both nations to curb their flow of illegal immigrants and illicit drugs from those countries into the United States. So the question is, under their new leadership, will Canada seriously consider this 51st state idea? Well, Justin Trudeau admitted himself that he cannot be the best option in that election. I mean, after nearly a decade of leading Canada, the Prime Minister has lived long enough to see himself become the villain. He's been grappling for months with some pretty significant drops in his approval rating. Just like here in the United States with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Canadians have just been frustrated over issues like the soaring cost of living, and let's not forget about the rising inflation. It's culminated into an increase in calls for his resignation from at least 7 Liberal members of Parliament, as well as the opposition party leaders, especially after the abrupt departure of his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, who wrote a scathing letter of resignation mentioning Justin Trudeau's handling of certain economic policies, as well as the threats levied by Trump. Well, the polls are now showing the opposition Conservatives heavily favored to win the next general election, which by law must be held sometime this year. In short, Canada is following America's lead in draining their own swamp. And now that Justin Trudeau's announced his resignation, maybe somebody who's more pro-America might be better. I'm just saying. But what do y'all think? Is this Justin Trudeau resignation a sign of good riddance to bad rubbish? Just drop a quick yes or no in the comments down below, guys, and let us know what you guys think. Oh, and don't forget to show your support on the channel, light up the like button, and subscribe now for more updates like this one. Remember, guys, it is your engagement that definitely keeps our channel going. So I'm always thankful to you guys for being here. And also join me over in Twitter. We're growing our Twitter community as well. I'll leave a link for you guys in the description down below of this video to join us over on X. Now, from one politician's downfall to another, we now move on to Vice President Kamala Harris certifying her own resounding loss to President-elect Donald Trump. And man, what a moment as this formally ends a whirlwind election cycle that saw Kamala Harris succeed President Joe Biden mid-race, raising a whopping $1 billion in fewer than 12 weeks, yet ultimately flopping in all 7 vital swing states. I mean, this was an epic failure for Kamala Harris. And to top it all off, Kamala Harris was even addressed as Madam President during the joint session of Congress, since she was the president of the Senate, but not because she won the election. I mean, she even won 1 fewer electoral votes than former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton did on her own ill-fated attempt to win the White House 8 years ago, as Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin all broke the GOP's way to give Trump a 312 to 226 electoral college victory. She also made history for getting the smallest electoral vote total attained by any Democrat since Michael Dukakis, who could only get 111 votes in his 1988 defeat by George W. Bush. This is not the record you want to try to beat. So the drama-free joint session lasted fewer than 30 minutes with 434 House members and all but 1 of the 100 senators in attendance. But man, what a painful 30 minutes it was for the vice president, right? Foretellers, Senators Deb Fischer and Amy Klobuchar, as well as Representatives Brian Steele and Joe Morell, they read the electoral results from each state into the congressional record while confirming that they were regular, informed, and authentic. Kamala Harris kept a poker face throughout the entire thing, never diverting from her official script and just pausing at the conclusion of the session to thank the lawmakers. But you know that must have stung. You know what I mean? Like, that had to hurt. Eric Trump even commented on X and said that Kamala Harris certifying her own loss is the best birthday present one could ever wish for. I mean, you gotta feel at least a little bit vindicated, right? Not only did Trump win the Electoral College, but he also won the popular vote, 49.9 to 48.4. Now that's 77.3 million votes to Kamala Harris's 75, the first Republican to do so in 20 years, guys. This after both Biden and Kamala Harris called him a convicted felon and a fascist. And the oldest ever president even took a swipe at all the Republican supporters in the final week of the race when they mocked them as garbage. Nice job, Joe Biden. And remember when Joe Biden told Democrats that they gotta lock him up, meaning Trump? Oh yeah, let's not forget that. So yeah, even though this certification may have hurt Kamala Harris, I really don't think that it compares to what they did to President-elect Trump and his supporters. I mean, am I right, guys? And as we continue with a new chapter for our country, country, we made sure to keep an eye out for possible threats on the horizon. For one, they just reported the first human death from bird flu in Louisiana. That's right, guys, Mike Johnson's hometown of Louisiana. Here, check this out.
Down from Louisiana here. The Department of Health there, listen to this. The first person has died from bird flu in this country, in that state. This is somebody who was in the hospital about 3 weeks ago. They had the country's very first severe bird flu infection. The question then comes up, okay, given that this happened, what is the risk for everybody else? The Louisiana Health Department says it's generally a fairly low risk unless you work with birds, poultry, or cows, or have exposure to them, maybe recreationally, you're at a farm a lot, whatever the case may be. Dr. Kavita Patel is joining us now. Okay, talk us through this, right? Because this feels like it was a threshold, if this happened, of an alarm bell sounding, the first person to die from bird flu in this country. Talk us through it.
Yeah, Hallie, 65-year-old with underlying medical conditions, and their hospitalization was first reported over 3 weeks ago. And we know that this was from exposure from backyard animals and some wild animal exposure. So this wasn't a farm or poultry worker. And it signals a shift in the development of this virus in that it's getting more adaptable, but still, to emphasize, very low risk because we still have no cases of human-to-human transmission. That's kind of the next thing that scientists are watching for, but no evidence of that in this case.
They refused to identify the patient, but they said that they were over 65 years old and they were reported to have underlying medical conditions. They also said that the patient contracted H5N1 after exposure to a combination of non-commercial backyard flock and wild birds. Their reason for not saying the name: patient confidentiality and respect for the family. Then again, it just kind of makes it hard for the public to trust this news. You know what I mean, right? But yeah, let's go ahead and take it with a grain of salt and let's see what they have to say about it, shall we? Now, apart from the patient details, the CDC also said that the Louisiana patient was found to have a mutated version of the virus, meaning that the virus mutated within the patient, and that kind of suggests that it could potentially spread from human to human. So yeah, major COVID flashbacks here, you guys. They also shared that outside the United States, more than 950 cases of H5N1 bird flu have been reported to the World Health Organization. About half of those have resulted in death. That's a 50% death rate, guys. The CDC analyzed samples of the H5N1 virus that were collected from the patient. They said that they compared its genomic sequences to those of infected dairy cows, wild birds, poultry, and other animals. But what they found was that there were mutations which were not found in virus sequences from poultry samples collected on the patient's property, suggesting that the changes emerged in the patient after infection. They also added that while these low-frequency changes are rare in humans, they have been reported in previous cases of H5N1 in other countries and most often during severe disease. From there, health officials recommended ongoing genomic surveillance in people and animals, meaning taking steps to contain bird flu outbreaks among dairy cattle and poultry, and taking steps to prevent transmission when exposed to infected animals or environments. Both the CDC and the LDH maintain that risk to the general public is still low. Then again, guys, they're also talking about the possibility of human-to-human transmission, and that those who come in contact with birds, poultry, or cows are at higher risk of contracting the virus. Now, we're already counting 66 confirmed human cases of bird flu, including the Louisiana case, according to the CDC. Now, out of those, 37 were in California alone, 11 were in Washington, and 10 were in Colorado. Now, we got to keep a close eye on this one, guys, because before you know it, they could be using this as an excuse for closures, lockdowns, and restrictions like they did before. You know what I mean? So yeah, we always got to stay on top and keep our guard up. Right, guys? Drop a quick yes in the comments down below if you guys are feeling me on this one. And let me know what you guys think about everything that we covered today. Just write a quick comment down below. We can make a conversation out of it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Tap that notification bell too. That way you guys won't miss it when we drop our next updates. Now, speaking of which, stick around until the end of this video because I've got some suggested videos for you. But as always, appreciate you guys watching this one. Double thanks for lighting up the like button. And seriously, guys, I really appreciate it. See you on the next one.